Hello and welcome to Risk Management for Meetings and Events. This is Paula Henry, and today we're going to be reviewing an example of how to choose an EMBOK model domain, its functional unit, and when discovering the potential risks within that domain and functional unit for an event, how do we determine whether those risks would be speculative or absolute? So we're going to use an example off of a test that was given recently. So the premise of the question was, the city of Orlando has various fireworks events throughout the year for different celebrations. For example, 4th of July, the Christmas holiday season, Labor Day, those kinds of events. So they're just really fireworks displays. There isn't any other show attached with those. It's just strictly a fireworks display out at Lake Eola. So the question was asking to determine which one you as the event planner would feel like would be the most important EMBOK model domain to examine, and which functional unit within that domain would be best to examine to discover potential risks that would happen in a fireworks show. And then once you determine the risk, and just looking for one risk in this case, when determining that risk, then is it speculative or is it absolute? I've had several emails from students really asking for clarification of how to figure out whether a risk is absolute or speculative. So really, to do that, we have to back all the way up to the beginning and figure out the domain and the correct functional unit with that, and what is the risk that's discovered as a potential possibility, and then you can base your argument on that, and it will become clear whether it's absolute or speculative. So several students answered this question, that they felt like the best domain would be the design domain, and the best functional unit within the design domain was production design management. Now, is this a good answer? Well, I think that there's a good argument for that. Now, you weren't asked to give an argument for why you chose that domain and functional unit, but that comes out when you explain the risk that you see. Now, what the challenge was that I found several people, in fact, I'm going to read an answer that was given. But before I do that, let me just go back a minute here. So it can be a good domain to be looking for potential risks. As we've discussed, an event will have risk in several domains. So there often is more than one answer to an open-ended question like this. And so choosing the design domain is great, and production design also is a valid, a reasonable functional unit to choose. Now, the design domain is not about shooting off the fireworks. It's not about keeping people safe. It's all about the design of the fireworks show. So just think of it just like if you're putting on a wedding, you're designing that wedding. How is that going to be? So the fireworks show it's 4th of July. We want to have red, white, and blue fireworks primarily. It always cracks me up. Every year when I watch fireworks, there's always red and green fireworks, and I never understand why they include green. I believe it's because they're pretty prevalent and easier to get, and they throw them in. But for me, I would really love to see a fireworks show that was 100% red, white, and blue. And I've yet to see one with all my years of watching fireworks. Anyway, so the point is that it's about the design. So, a fireworks show will start off and they'll have a couple of big ones, and then they set off those whistle kind of fireworks, and then they'll do some more big bursts, and sometimes they do 3 bursts, and then it all builds up to the end where there's the grand finale. Okay, so that's great. That's designing the fireworks show. After that, when we're looking at that, so what are the risks now within the design? So that's our functional unit that we're looking at in that domain. So what could be the potential risks? So I just kind of touched on one. So one risk would be somebody orders the wrong colors of fireworks, and you're shooting off the show, and all of a sudden you're shooting off orange and purple and green fireworks. Well, this is kind of crazy. You know, it doesn't match with 4th of July. And so what would happen? The audience would be really disappointed, and they would think that you didn't know how to do a fireworks show for 4th of July. So this then would make people upset. They'd probably leave, and they would never recommend the show at Lake Eola anymore, because they would have lost faith with the event planners for being able to put on a good 4th of July fireworks show. So this would be considered an absolute risk. Okay, so choosing the wrong colors would definitely be an absolute risk for the design domain in the production design management functional unit. Now, if you're in that same functional unit, design, production design, and what happens is you have these fabulous fireworks. They're all the right colors. In fact, it's my ideal fireworks show. They're all red, white, and blue, and they're fabulous. But what happens is somebody gets them mixed up a little bit, and the flow of the fireworks is maybe not optimal. Maybe some people in the audience notice it, and they just feel like, that was a real big one, and then a little one, and maybe it just doesn't feel like fabulous, but the fireworks are so fabulous, the flow doesn't matter, and at the end, the grand finale still happens. But along the way, maybe it's not done the way that it was originally designed. So what happens is people are a little bit disappointed because of the flow, and maybe they don't even comprehend what was that just felt a little bit off. But you know what? It's second to the fact that the fireworks were fabulous. So that is a speculative risk, because they're going to come back next year, and they're just going to hope that the flow is much better than it was last year, but they're going to be looking for those bells and whistles and red, white, and blue fireworks on the 4th of July, as one would expect.